What's up, everybody? We are here with one of my favorite human beings, one of my teachers, which is awesome when I get to introduce you guys to one of the people who have been a profound influence in my life. So, welcome, Anahata Ananda,
Thank you.
to this podcast, and we're going to have some fun.
We always have fun every time we get together. Whatever we're doing, it's a good time.
Yeah.
Whether it's healing or awakening or playing, it's always a deep journey. So it's
Indeed.
a pleasure.
So we invited you out here to Austin, first of all, because we love you, but second of all, because we wanted to introduce shamanic breathing to Austin. And that's something that I've been talking about for years now, ever since I did the first one with you and mentioned it. I mentioned it in my psychedelic experience short video. I'm always talking about it. But when I first did it, I did it in the midst of a big cleanse. And I think it just became kind of like part of this magic event where my liver was getting cleansed, my psyche was getting worked on, I was getting ridiculous massages from Parangi. I met Dr. Dan. It was like this momentous thing. So I was like, oh yeah, breathing was a part of this great process. But then I came out and I was part of the first session here that I did it. And then I really realized, like, holy shit, the potential that breath has on its own. Because I just got back from 3 ayahuasca sessions followed by a bunch of different other medicine journeys. And what I experienced and saw in that shamanic breathing was as profound a healing experience as any ayahuasca experience that I've been a part of. I mean, as far as going around the room and seeing the results from everybody just from that breath, it was incredible. And same for me. And it seems like it's really one of the most elegant solutions. So I'll go in a little bit more on that, but why don't you, jump in, and you're a master at this art. So explain a little bit what it is. Imagine that people have no idea what we're talking about, and then just take them through it.
Okay. So, shamanic, I like to call it shamangelic breathing because that's another twist I like to put on it. A shamanic ceremony is meant to take you to your edge. It's meant to bring you to that place where there's growth, there's opportunity, there's awakening. And, so as a healer, as a counselor, as someone who is devoted and passionate and really excited about helping people move through that transformation as quickly and gracefully and beautifully and deep as possible, in all of my training and all of my journeys and travels, I've found that, shamanic breath work to be a very powerful gateway, efficient and deep and effective. And the part that makes it really shamangelic is that I add a very personal touch, so that
that's your little flavor. That's your little Emerald Lagasse.
That's it.
Bam!
It's like,
a little spice to it.
Because I'm interested in leveling up, like how efficient can we be? How much transformation, how much healing and awakening can happen in the shortest period of time without a lot of repercussions or a challenge integrating it? And how can it be personal? And so the breath work is really, if you've never done it before, this isn't just deep breathing, and this is different than kind of a yogic breath. If for those yogis out there, this is a little bit different than that. This is really a deep prana breathing, inhale and exhales, and you're hyper oxygenating your body, and you're laying down. And the benefit to that is that it starts to open blockages in the physical body so that it moves toxicity. So that's a benefit. And then it also starts to move emotional density. So when you're breathing that intensely, it can bring up fear, it can bring up anger, it can bring up happiness, it can bring up sadness, it can bring up rage. And so you've got your own tailored therapy session right there. And the breath knows where it needs to go. You don't have to do anything other than just to keep breathing. What I like to add to that is to invite questions that go deep for you personally. If you're afraid of relationships, if there's still a pain or a wound there, if there's some block to manifestation or confidence. I like to use the breath work to also get at what's underneath that. You know, if there's an old wound, a belief, if there's some contraction, some pain, somebody else's energy that is in the space kind of keeping you from really being your fullest potential. I'm interested in going there with the breath.
Right.
And amazing experiences happen, as you know. And there's no wrong way to experience it, because sometimes just deep breathing might create just physical detoxification, and that might just be what you need. That might be amazing, just that. It may provide the safe space to let go of some old oppression or pain or sadness or guilt that hasn't ever had a really safe audience to kind of hold that and allow it to process. And it also can bring in a lot of truth and a lot of light. It can be very much in this place of euphoric bliss and freedom and expansion and peace, maybe that hasn't been experienced before, or maybe has been forgotten.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, like all of us understand that, you know, if you're a little stressed out, you take a deep breath, that one,
right?
And instantly you feel something, right? But then so few of us have been like, well, what happens if I keep doing that?
What if I do it again?
What if I do it again, and then
hour?
again, and then again, and then again? And this is just that answer of like, what happens when you push that to the limit? Like, take breath all the way to to what its capacity is, what its capability is.
Yeah.
And there's a point at which it becomes genuinely psychedelic. It's not just like, oh, this is relaxing and I'm able to process things. There's an actual psychedelic experience that starts to happen. Now, I don't know, you know, pharmacokinetically what's happening with the hyperoxygenation in the brain, but it feels very much the same as any one of these other medicines. It's basically opening the Venetian blinds to your higher consciousness, right? Like allowing more of that to come through. But to me, what's so amazing about it is, and you have some physical sensation, but the physical sensation is largely somewhat pleasurable. You get like kind of you get a little tingling. You get a little tingly. You get a little this thing called tetany where your fingers kind of go sometimes, but it's not unpleasant. I mean, especially when compared to the plant medicine experience, like right, wanting to puke for 5 hours on ayahuasca or wanting to puke for 25 hours on iboga or something like that. So, and generally it feels kind of good because you got all this oxygen going in your body and you do these breath locks and things. But really, eventually you get to a very similar place. Maybe it doesn't have the same fireworks visually, but it's so elegant because it's finding like exactly what you need. And I think when I'm comparing the two, all of these things are chakarunas. They're bridges. They're bridges to your higher consciousness, right? But with the breathing, it's an air bridge versus these plant bridges. Because some of these plant bridges, you got to contend with the bridge. Like, you're putting in a bridge, no doubt, but you got to contend with that bridge. And that bridge is a motherfucker sometimes.
And integrate it.
Yeah, and integrate it. So you're dealing with a lot more of something that's not, of the bridge that's getting you to your higher consciousness rather than just the most elegant bridge possible, this air bridge that you're creating, which is, there's nothing there. So you have no bridge to contend with, and it's just providing you access to the same thing. So to me, it's really one of the most elegant solutions for that deep healing psychedelic experience.
I've studied it in so many different modalities with different ways to go about it and blending it with different tools. And so it's been a passion of mine to look at it and find different modalities and different techniques. And in watching it and how it works, what you're talking about, it being a psychedelic experience, or it can be, is that when you're hyperoxygenating the brain, the gateways to consciousness, also known as the pituitary gland, pituitary gland first for your sixth chakra, and then pineal gland for the seventh chakra. So if you're looking at it through that lens of the chakras or the glands, those are energy centers. They're also physical parts in the body that need nourishment. And by the shallow breathing that most of us do every day, we don't nourish the pineal and the pituitary glands. And those are our 6th and 7th chakras that are the gateways, the natural gateways, without any substance, without any catalyst. We have those channels available to us to be that bridge direct between us and consciousness, between us and spirit. What happens, what gets in the way, limiting beliefs, toxicity in the brain, different chemicals and toxins that are actually clogging, literally, physically, and you talk a lot about this in On It and different ways that you can nourish those glands. So it's a physical thing and it's an energetic thing. We don't use those, they get atrophied. The yogis meditate on the 6th and 7th chakras, these 2 glands, to help them awaken and to actually massage them. Just like the muscle and fitness that you guys are doing here at On It, you've got to use the muscle or it atrophies. The same thing with those glands is they atrophy because we're in technology all the time. We're replaying fear programs and limiting beliefs. And so
watching I Am Caitlin on
Right.
television.
Right? And so we're really
that actually has been proven to
down.
actually shrink it immediately. Like you can do a PET scan of a brain and your pineal gland shrinks.
Time lapse photography.
Yeah, like within 1 hour.
Wow,
visibly.
That's
You don't even need tools to measure it.
Or you could breath work.
It's like a 20% decrease if you finish the whole show. You know,
right?
It's not exactly science,
right? But this is so. There's some things here just to be aware of, like, well, how do I access these psychedelic states or consciousness states on my own? And so, mineralizing, which is a lot of the products that you guys have, mineralizing the pineal and the pituitary glands are one of those.
They like alkaline conditions.
They do, and they like minerals. They like alkaline, and so that means calm states. And then the oxygen is flooding the pineal and the pituitary gland with blood, and so it moves an oxygen, and so it moves out the toxicities. Then you got to go after all the limiting beliefs too. So, and densities and the emotional imprints, because I like to look at it like a ceiling and a floor that says, I can expand my consciousness, but there's a ceiling to it depending on how much density is pulling me down.
A weight, yeah.
Yeah, so that can be unworthiness. That can be I not feeling confident. That can be emotional imprints, pain and suffering that have happened as a child, not feeling safe, being afraid. There's all kinds of different emotional and energetic imprints or blocks, and this is why I have a whole healing practice devoted to just unlocking and releasing those. Those are also getting in the way of that higher consciousness. So that's why I love breath work, because if in the process we can also direct the breath and the intention to look at those lower, now we're going down into the lower energy centers of the body, and if we look at it through the chakras, where we're not feeling safe, secure, or connected, we have family problems, relationship problems, our inner child is wounded, confidence issues, how we use power, whether we feel worthy, all of those things, how we understand love and the conditions and the walls and the imprints and the pain that are in our heart. All of those things are also blocks to these upper gateways.
Yeah.
So
it's such a good metaphor to think of it like a hot air balloon, right? Like imagine that your consciousness is this hot air balloon, and then all of those limiting beliefs and densities, those are like the ropes that are holding the basket, ropes and sandbags and weights holding that down. And the breath is then starting to fill up that balloon, that fire, that breath filling up the balloon. And then also at the same time, you're untying these ropes and tossing off extra sandbags. And all of a sudden your consciousness is able to start lifting, and
you
there'll be some,
both.
you got to do both, and that's part of the unpacking process. I remember one of the early times, I had some old family stuff, and there was this one sturdy crusted rope there, right?
It's holding on really tight.
It was just like really preventing, my when I try and get the hot air balloon going, it'd start leaning to one side because I got this rope tied to the ground. And you just very elegantly was just like, well, what about if you looked at it this way? And then it just started to unravel, and there it goes. You know, so much of this is, it's not like there's a problem with our hardware. You know, like there's something wrong with the brain itself or something wrong with our heart. Very often it's just a belief. It's just a belief. And if you can unravel that belief and see it a different way, look at it from a different perspective, that belief changes, and then so much else changes.
Right. And if we just go about trying to open these upper gateways without releasing and clearing the lower ones, we're going to reach a ceiling, or we're going to start to distort things up here, because we say, okay, I can open up these gateways naturally or synthetically, but that still doesn't address the issue with my dad. It doesn't still give me the tools to heal from that breakup. You know, I'm still in pain. There's those issues are still there. We might have a lighter feeling. We might have seen it from a different angle. But those things that are tethered in there like chains, it takes a while to undo those. And that's what's nice about the breath work, or what I call shamangelic work, is because we're working on both ends of the equation at the same time. And we go down into whatever's ready, because we're not going to want to force something to release. It's just an invitation that says, okay, well, let's breathe into the pain. You know, where do you feel alone? Where are you sad?
Yeah.
What is the unworthiness about? And using the breath to actually dive into those feelings and not away from, because this can be an avoidance thing, to be up here all the time, kind of avoiding the earthly reality of, I'm having troubles with my partner.
Right.
I don't know how to address the sensitive issue, or I want to make a job change, but I don't feel confident. And those are more real issues. And I love when a process can go down and start to release the density, but then also bring in more light, more truth, and start to reconnect you directly to your higher self, directly to your potential. And then we start to unravel the limiting beliefs. And then in its place, now that the ceiling, if we've gone into the basement and cleared those things out, then that also allows the ceiling of our potential to start to shift.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets really exciting.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And I actually think that, you know, one of the reasons why ayahuasca is potentially a powerful tool is it is working on both when it works well. It's working on both of those things. You're actually taking things in your gut, these literal densities, these
some physical
things that you've been carrying, right?
Yeah.
And releasing those physically, as well as, you know, expanding with the DMT and all of that. So when it works well, it has these powerful transformations because it's working on both fronts. However, as mentioned before, you're dealing with a serious bridge. You know, like the bridge to get you to do that is intense, you know, and you have to contend with the nausea, and you contend with the plant and this, you know, the practitioner and all of these other things.
Space, is it held?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, you know, certainly the healing potential is there. I've experienced that myself. But to see how much of that you can get just with a good practitioner and good breathing on your own. And, you know, there's no government that can make breathing illegal.
Right.
you know, like there's no way that you know, that's ever going to come. So it's cool. It's cool to know that that's always available. Yeah. That's always an option. And it's, you know, now as a veteran of all of these other things, that's really intensely comforting, because it's something that's, I would feel comfortable. Like people always ask, are you going to open up this kind of plant medicine center? Like, probably not.
In the States, that's
probably
a little tricky.
Probably not. You know, I mean, maybe at some point, but this is something that I could unequivocally say, we need one of these in every city. You know, just do it. I know you're going to be skeptical. Everybody who I send is going to be skeptical. You know, they walk in like, what the fuck did Aubrey get me? I'm going to breathe. I mean, from my girlfriend Whitney to like other people. Like, I just go, just do it. And then all of a sudden they come back and their eyes are like, ding.
Lit up.
Like, whoa, how is that even possible?
And in such a short period of time.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's, I think, what's exciting is because a lot of our traditional approaches are in linear time. having a counseling session and we're just talking like this and come back next Wednesday. It's in linear time. And shamanic experience can get you out of your body in such a way that you can be dealing with something from a past life. You can be dealing from a trauma at 2, 7, and 15, 25, and 38, all at the same time. And so then we're not having to actually go back through all of those exact experiences. And it can just be the energy of oppression or anger. And we don't have to actually walk through linear time all the way back through every single time we got angry. But it's in there. And so if we just let out anger, it doesn't necessarily have to go back to each one of those experiences. So we can release a lot of pent-up density that's been happening for decades in 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, yes, victory.
Yeah.
Because when I first started getting into breath work, there was a lot of rage. There was a lot of anger.
From you personally?
Me personally. And I had, unresolved issues with where things didn't go the way I wanted them. And where I didn't understand the situation or the surprise pain, or being stabbed in the back or just not feeling safe and or betrayal or any of those things that we all deal with some of that in some way.
Yeah.
Abandonment issues, any of that. And I think that rage, that anger, not having a safe space to express itself was inhibiting my ability to be more calm, more centered, more conscious in my relationships, in my business. It's just this underlying nastiness that it's not really who I am. It was just, not there is anything wrong with who I am. It was just some programming, some unresolved issues there. And it felt so liberating to just, just let out rage. Because socially, that's not really acceptable to do for a young lady to be rageful. And, so for women, that is oppressed a lot. And for men, look, don't feel, don't cry, don't admit it, be strong, put it under the carpet and keep moving forward. And so there often for men is not a safe space to feel vulnerable, sad, afraid, misunderstood, sensitive. And, we're human. We need places, we need safe spaces to be ourselves.
Sure.
And in our relationships, in our family dynamics at work, that's just not always the case. And so this is, with the right breathwork practitioner, a safe chalice can be created for a person to express those emotions.
And you see that. I mean, you see all of these tough men in these ceremonies, they're just like, they've been training it on an academy, slinging maces for days and Viking flows, and they just get in there and like, and then just the tears just start flowing. It's just these emotions that they haven't been able to express. I mean, we go through life armored, we go so many times the dinosaur approach, our own horn and bone and scales, and we're like, look at this, and then, but eventually that's heavy, and it's hiding things, and things are festering under our armor, and part of the art is to just start taking that off and realizing our inherent invulnerability as beings of consciousness. Yes, we have a squishy body, but that's not what we're protecting in the first place. We're protecting our sensitive, soft emotions and all of these parts of ourselves, and realizing that, that's going to be okay. And we can release some of these things. We're worthy of love. We don't need to protect ourselves from, and largely, and oftentimes we're protecting ourselves from our own judge, our own critic, which is always harsher than the critique of the world. I mean, we say things to ourselves that we would never say to somebody else. I mean, how many times do we call ourselves, you stupid piece of shit?
Oh, you should have done that better. What's wrong with you?
We would never say that to our friend, like ever, or an employee or anybody. It would be like devastating to say that to somebody, but we say it to ourselves and just accept it over and over. and that's why we're armoring up so often, is our own critique. And yes, maybe we learn that a little bit from the world, a little bit from conditional love patterns, but that's life. That's where we're at. We're not going to find. I think you sent me something, and I don't know if you remember it. If not, maybe we can pull it up. But some piece about the difference between unconditional love and conditional love.
Oh, right. Flying in love versus falling in love.
Well, not that. It was we come from unconditional love.
Oh, right. Oh, yes,
that
yes.
Piece. Yeah.
Yeah. So, this is where the healing begins, is because I think we have the expectations that our partner or our parents or our friends should love us unconditionally. Good luck with that. Because we weren't raised with unconditional love. That doesn't mean our parents or our love didn't care and didn't love us, but they have their own imprints. They have their own disconnections. They have their own programming. They have their own imprints and fears, and so they have their own blocks with their own agendas and their own limitations. And so sometimes they're going to be out of balance, and you might need something, and if I'm grumpy and tired, you might need love from me, and I may not be able to give it. Not that I don't love you and I don't care about you, but it may be beyond my capacity. If I'm feeling overwhelmed, tired, insecure, I might lose my job, and I'm stressed, and I'm having some physical issues. All of those things, all of those emotional, energetic, spiritual, physical, and mental blocks that everybody has in their own combination, always fluxing and changing, sometimes getting more dense or more light, and it's layers that we peel off. We have this expectation that other people should love us unconditionally. And that's the trip right there. That's the trip. Yep. And then if someone doesn't, because they're not capable in that moment, then I guess I'm unworthy, or they're an ass. Right. And it could be a little bit of both. Yeah. But it's like, okay, well, that's beyond their ability right now. Where can I start loving myself unconditionally? Talking about that inner dialogue you were talking about, and where can I access some sort of higher consciousness, spirit, God, angelic, universe that does have the ability to love me without condition, that doesn't have agenda, that doesn't need anything from me, that has my best interest always at the forefront, and doesn't have any limiting beliefs about me. And so there is that disconnection from spirit or source or higher consciousness, where I only learn about my worthiness of love or my value from other people. And if they're out of balance and can't see my fullest essence, if they can't love themselves and they can't love me, then I'm going to see a very small version of myself again and again and again. And somebody else's behavior is going to keep reinforcing that. Yeah. So what is empowering about that is the more we start to clear out those limitations and realize, oh, how can I be more centered, more clear, and love myself? And in processes like breath work and other experiences, start to soften and dissolve that armor. Then I can also have greater compassion for someone else that is in pain, that is suffering, that also has armor up or is being triggered by their own insecurities.
Sure. I learned in one of my journeys that one of the big issues with people having that kind of compassion and empathy is when you're in pain and when you're suffering, just like any animal, look at an animal in pain and suffering. You don't want to get near that animal because it's going to attack you. It doesn't have that capacity. You get very myopic, get very focused on yourself when you're in one of those conditions. And when you're in a state of feeling healthy and feeling loved yourself, then you're able to spill that over.
Connected,
far more. I actually want to get that. I'm going to get that thing and read it off here.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah. Okay, so here's that piece that you handed me that one day in your house. It's by Courtney Walsh. Dear human, you've got it all wrong. You didn't come here to master unconditional love. That is where you came from, and that is where you'll return. You came here to learn personal love, universal love, messy love, sweaty love, crazy love, broken love, whole love, infused with divinity, lived through the grace of stumbling, demonstrated through the beauty of messing up often. You didn't come here to be perfect. You already are. You came here to be gorgeously human, flawed and awesome, and then rise again into remembering.
Right? We're expecting our relationships not to be flawed and messy. And if they're flawed and messy, okay, we just got to throw that one out.
Yeah.
And that disconnection from where we came from, source, spirit, unconditional love, I think we drop in as humans expecting that, well, my mom should give it to me, my brother should know how to love me, my partner should know, my best friend, and that's not the case. We do our best, and sometimes we'll feel more comfortable and we'll have those connections with people.
Yeah.
But they're still going to have their things, they're still going to have their stuff.
Of course. And I think that actually, when you look at some of the religions, I have endless criticisms for Christianity as an institution. But the one beautiful thing about it, well, one of the beautiful things is in accessing that kind of concept of Christ, right? You are accessing this metaphor at the very least of what that universal love and forgiveness would be like.
Right.
And some of my, mystical teachers have talked to me about that. And basically, they can say, yeah, go show Jesus all your demons. Show him all your demons. He's not going to flinch.
Yeah.
Like, he is not going to flinch. The love and forgiveness is going to be unwavering. No matter what you're hiding inside himself, he's seen that shit before.
Yeah, and it doesn't scare him.
He's like, yeah. It does not scare him at all. He's not like, oh, damn.
Oh, ouch.
Oh, let me check the
Let
me check the handbook on that. He's going to be like, whatever.
Right.
Like, I've seen it all. And that's like a beautiful concept to have. Like, that is the other side. That is that universal cosmic love, that place that we're all going to. There's no hell, there's like, that's the place we're going to. Yeah, we may have to look back at what we've done, and we'll be really, really sad if we've, made choices that were hurtful to other people. But ultimately, we'll be able to turn to that universal love and be redeemed in that, in that forgiveness. And this is not religion talking. This is just my own experience of looking over on the other side and feeling that.
Yeah, it's not about whether or not Christ lived or walked on this planet or not, or whether you believe that or not. I've found that just the example in the ethers there, in the stories that wow, that level of forgiveness when someone's that angry, someone's that intense in your face to want to take your life, forgiving them there, like that is really stretching it, I think.
Yeah.
So then it gives us something to work for.
Mm-hmm.
And there's and it doesn't mean, forgiveness doesn't mean I respect the choice you made, but I respect that's where you're coming from. And if it's from a place of ignorance or being out of balance from a place of pain, then that's where you are, and that can open the compassionate doors. If we're out of balance and triggered and needy and not connected, well, then I'm going to reach for you for that love because I'm not getting it anywhere else.
Yeah.
And so that course, the Conscious Relationships course, talks about that level of self-empowerment and taking care of all of those things more sovereignly, because otherwise you're in a codependent relationship with everybody. If I'm out of balance, if I'm disconnected, if I'm wounded, hurt, or insecure, then I'm leaning on you to fix it. Of course that's going to cause conflict, even if you're Mr. Wonderful.
Right.
Of course you're going to fall short in that because it's not your responsibility to fill in all my gaps.
And it's creating attachments.
And unnecessary tension probably between two wonderful people, whether that is siblings, whether that's parents and children, whether that's intimate relationships or coworkers. It's unnecessary false debris in the space.
Well, imagine, one of the ways I like to imagine it is imagine like what you really want is two independent, healthy, thriving people dancing together,
Ideally,
right?
yeah.
Dancing. So imagine two healthy people dancing together.
Butterflies.
They have synergy, they have connection, they have momentum, they're swirling around, they're laughing together. And now when you have attachments where somebody else is providing a vital service for you, either giving you love or giving you happiness or giving you worth or something, that's like you're sharing an organ with them. So all of a sudden you're like Siamese twins or sisters or brothers or whatever, Siamese partners in that. And so you're actually attached through these organs. So, okay, yeah, you can dance a little bit too, but your freedom is going to be limited. And God forbid if you ever try to extricate from yourself, you're literally pulling different organs out, and you're going to be left with diminished capacity, right?
This is why breakups hurt.
That's why it hurts so much, because we end up getting more and more Siamesed in this kind of action. It's just not really the ideal. But all of our songs reinforce that. Like,
baby, I'm nothing without you.
Yeah,
like, wait, what? Is that true?
Exactly. Like, you listen to the lyrics of this, and it's like, this is really bad advice.
I don't want to sing this over again.
There's bad advice everywhere about how much, like, I'll die without you, all of these things. Yeah, it's fine to love someone truly, deeply, as deeply as possible, but, be self-sufficient in all of that as well. And it'll just be way more fun.
Well, then you're bringing the best, more whole-centered, version of yourself to the relationship, instead of expecting that person to bring your happiness, your validation, and your security and love to you. And that doesn't mean you can't still really be in a deeply committed, conscious relationship, but there's a certain level of healthy sovereignty that's ideal for both parties. And it's juicy. And the more we can breathe through that negotiations, because we're not always going to be our most clear, centered, sovereign self. We're human, like that says, hey, it's messy love, it's confusing love, and to be compassionate with yourself in the process of tripping and falling, because you will, even with the greatest intentions of I do forever, or yes, we're going to be BFFs, best friends forever, and yet there's growth, or there's expansion and change. And what real love does is allow that to happen. Yeah. It doesn't try to grab it. Or whether it's a parent's love for a child that allows them to walk their own journey without trying to control or manipulate it, even though there's good intentions, not smothering a soul, trying to keep them from feeling pain, or to direct them in a way that would make you feel proud. It's like there's a lot of codependencies there, and I have a lot of fun in working with couples and family dynamics and work dynamics to create more healthy
for sure
communication and resolving of disagreements. Because no matter what, two people are going to have disagreements, no matter if they're soul twin flames, or twins, or a great conscious couple. There's two different souls. And there's going to be times when an issue brings about two different perspectives or two different opinions. And how can we consciously address how to resolve that disparity without stomping out of the room, blaming, getting agitated, hurting each other, and getting triggered. Yeah. So there's the juiciness.
It was funny talking about that. I have an example. So we were watching a little Naked and Afraid yesterday, that show, and there was the one episode we were watching. There was this group of three people, two men and this female, and they're seriously dehydrated, seriously malnourished, right? So the worst shit is coming out, and she was just trying to get her point across and be heard. She was having she was feeling very emotional, and these dummies, had no way of dealing with it. This total rational, weren't connecting with her at all. So she loses her shit. She takes their knives and all of their supplies. They have very little stuff anyways. They're naked in the bush, and runs and throws it in the river. And they're like, what the hell are you doing? And she's like, I had to get your attention, And it's like, you see these things all right, maybe it's maybe it's not exactly that literal, but you see these sabotaging all things
time.
Oh yeah, well I'm gonna stomp your sandcastle, and then
I'll pull your hair.
right, and you see that behavior in these relationships all the time from both sides, and it's this funny kind of oh, now this is blown up even bigger because we've starved these people and they're thirsty and they are naked, and it's all of these fears and necessities are coming up. But we have those in our relationships all the time.
This is how we learned. Right. Most of what, we're in new territory around conscious relationships. We are in totally new territory, meaning that this is not what we were modeled typically by our parents and our grandparents. We were modeled more codependent, unconscious patterns. With no disrespect to the generations above us, they didn't have the tools either. and this is what that was modeled for them, and it was also coming around scarcity, survival mentality from the generations before us. So that means what we were raised with is a lot of unconscious patterns and a lot of codependent behaviors. Well, we just put it under the carpet. It doesn't, ignore it and avoid it, blame, and not taking accountability, not having listening tools, and not having really conflict resolution processes or practices. So most of us were raised with that. So if it's drama queen like this, if the drama, and if it has worked as a child, and it has been reinforced, because when you go all drama girl on something, it works. Well, then guess what? We have grown people doing that. If being aggressive and angry gets someone else to back down, guess what? That behavior gets reinforced over and over and over. And so now we have that happening in boardrooms. We have that happening in bedrooms. And so it's not little happening just on the playgrounds. Now it's at bigger stakes. And so if it's what we've been modeled, it won't take a split second to undo decades of programming.
Yeah.
It takes some time to kind of identify, where's that pattern? Where's my trigger? How can I learn something else? Because the greatest intention won't change the behavior if it's been in there for decades and it's pretty habitual without awareness.
Yeah, I mean, there's the process of unraveling it, but then there's just even the acceptance of the model. What are we even trying to do here? And that's all confused. And, I realized that, when I was working with my partner now, of course, Whitney, we realized that the best model we could go off of was a model of mutual altruism, right? So where we're both in it for each other's best benefit without anything in return. Now, it requires mutual altruism. Otherwise, you're sacrificing indefinitely for someone who's just taking, but if you both have that agreement, and that's both where you're starting from, then you really got something. Because then it's like, okay, what's best for that human, regardless of what I need out of this? Like, what's best for that human that I'm with? And then she's thinking, well, what's best for this human that I'm with? And then then it gets really juicy.
That's what actual love is.
Right.
That says, wow, if it's best for us to transition because you really need to go on this spiritual journey, or your business or your passion is taking you in this direction, I love you enough to give you the space to honor what you need. Mm-hmm. And also within that, what do I need, so that I'm also asking that, and I'm sure that I'm taking care of what my passions and my dreams and my path are, so that that is also not at the expense of someone else. And that we're starting to learn that, wow, that's what love is like for me, and it's what love is like for someone else.
Right. Yeah.
Which is exciting.
I know.
It's scary, and it's new. That's what I mean. We're in new territory. It hasn't been modeled. That we're just coming out with more authors, more workshops, more courses, more tools, because they haven't been out there, and the models haven't been there. So, but it's exciting, and there's more things available. I love working in this field.
There's so much. People are unhappy in relationships. It's just overwhelmingly they're unhappy, and I think it's because there really aren't, like, a good friendship. You really want your friend to be happy. Yeah. Like, you're like, hey, what's going to be mutually happy? Like, oh, I'll do something for you just to make it happy. But in relationships, you get caught in this back and forth. You have deep-seated resentment. You have all of these things, and it's just, there's a new model that needs to develop. And whatever the rules of that model are, whether it's monogamy or not monogamy, the rules don't matter. It's the model that matters. The model of saying, let's do what's best for each other. Yeah. And let's do that it is true love, asking for, I think Cyrano describes it, to create laughter born of my sacrifice without even being able to hear it. Like that's love, and that's what he's doing for Roxanne. He's giving Christian, who's the handsome one, all of the words and all of the ability to make Roxanne happy. Obviously he's a little deluded in what would actually make her happy, but he's doing all that out of love for her without even getting any of the reward, just knowing that it's making her happy. That's real love. Right. And that's a great model to start from.
It's scary, and it's new, and it's going to stretch us, because if apologizing or communicating how we feel is not typical. That's not what we have a lot of practice with, to say, hey, I'm uncomfortable, or I want to know how you feel, or there's something we need to address. And a lot of times we're not very practiced in those places of being vulnerable and being authentic and being honest and putting ourselves out there and loving without conditions. And it's like, wow, I might not get anything back. And it's like, yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah, that you might not. And that's why that connection with source, so that you know, you're not getting nothing here.
Sure.
And also that you are developing those relationships where there is some synergy and respect, so that both parties are able to give and share and serve each other, but not totally at the expense of self, that you're also taking care of yourself in the process.
That's important as well.
Yeah.
'Cause you can go across. But it's actually, if you're connected, it's not really possible to do something, you know, out of love for somebody else and not get anything in return.
Right.
Because at that universal consciousness level, as you're curing or helping or providing love for any corner of that, you're feeling it yourself, the more you're connected to the collective. So, you know, and also conversely, you know, if you do something harmful to any little corner of that collective, you're doing harm to yourself. Like, it's just a matter of expanding our idea of who we are to, yes, all right, we are this person, but we're also all the persons and also all of the creation.
Yeah, and it's interesting in what you were talking about earlier about the self-love piece, is that if I'm not honoring myself, if I'm not taking care of myself, then I don't have as much to give. And so that self-care piece is really important, so that you're able to give from a place of a full cup. Where it's really detrimental to the soul essence is when I'm taking care and giving to everybody else, and I'm depleting myself at the same time. And I see that a lot of enabling patterns, because everybody's receiving their validation from giving and taking care at the church, and taking care. They're a nurse, and they're also have 2 children, and they're taking care of their mother and their neighbor, and they're not loving enough to take care of themselves. And so there is a hiccup there to be aware of, so that you're putting yourself in the mix, so that you're coming from a full cup, and then can give that overflow with such ease and grace, and keep giving in a way that doesn't need that in return, because there's an emptiness. It's like, oh no, I'm already full, I got extra, I'm good. And that's the really juicy, healthy place to give from.
100%. And so concerning self-love, as deep as I've gone to try and track where the main blockages are, it's not a matter of like finding the love. The love is there. But what happens is our internal judge tells us that we're not worthy of it, that we don't deserve it, right? Because it's not like, oh man, I got to find more love and bring it. You got infinite love there, right? But we just have a filter. We have a filter in place, and that filter is, you're not worthy of that. You don't deserve that love. You haven't been good enough. You haven't performed good enough. You're not this enough. You know, and that's the thing to start. You gotta attack that filter, or attack it with love, but you know, but you gotta. That's what's really preventing it. And so, you know, going into those, like, I think that's why the Ho'oponopono Hawaiian philosophy is so valuable. Is just this radical forgiveness of every aspect of anything that you've been, and this acknowledgement that we are worthy of love, no matter what we've done, no matter who we are or where we've been or what's going on. That's not the way to punish yourself. That's not the way to course correct, is to withdraw that love. You need that love to be able to be that person that you want to be. It's like the necessary fuel. It's like being mad at a car for not running and giving it no gas. You're like, I'm going to give you no gas, but you got to win this race. You know, like, what the fuck? You got to give it gas and then it'll win the race.
And that unworthiness has come from a lot of the reinforced conditional love from childhood.
Yeah.
I only love you when you make me proud. I only love you when you do what I want you to do.
Like a father after you play a sport, like my dad had a great dad, but if I lit the fucking court up and scored 30 points,
Yay!
Just naturally when he gave
More
me a hug
excitement.
at the end of the game, it's like, yes. And then I was like, yes.
I guess I'm good.
Yeah. And then if 5 turnovers and two for 8 from the field, 1 for 10 from the field, it's like, oh, nice job.
No milkshake,
nice
no milkshake for you.
Pat on the back. But he wasn't even trying to do that. It was just this natural thing where people get high. They get high and full of all of this when things are good, and then they get low and down when things are not, and you internalize that.
It's conditional based on achievement.
Right.
And that there's a lot of that. That's why I like to work with parents and children, and family dynamics, because then we start getting at that at a younger age so that the children are not getting that programming from the beginning, and they don't have to undo it like so many of us adults are having to undo that. Wait, I am worthy, although I may be different or doing it different than the way my parents may want me to. This is who I am. And that's the solar plexus coming into sovereignty, your own star, your own light, your own truth, and being able to stand in that and not needing for external validation or approval. And that's where the confidence comes in and the worthiness comes in, when we unprogram all of that conditioning that is more only when you and most relationships are like that. I love you only when you love me back. I love you only when you do what I want you to do. Right. I love you only when you hear me. I only love you when you give me what I need, validate me, support me, and that's a lot for somebody else to be doing. And so of course there's going to be disappointments there, and it's delicious to be able to step into this place that says, wow, I can love me even if that's beyond someone's capacity. And since I've been in that painful place, I can also have compassion for where somebody else is not quite able to do that. There's this, in Buddhism, there's a practice called bodhicitta. And the Buddha sitting in the field of flowers, just in total peace, total serenity. And yet on the hillside, 360 degrees, warriors poised with arrows, daggers, weapons of all kinds in 360 degrees all around him. And he's just in peace. And it's impossible for him to get up and defend himself 360 degrees, being completely outnumbered, no matter how much of a Jedi master he may be. It is more about understanding that if anyone is throwing a dagger, it's from their own pain and suffering. It's from their own disconnectedness from their own divinity, their own grace, their own love, their own consciousness. And the dagger that's coming is not towards you. It's from them. And it's giving you a clue about what's going on inside that person. If they're throwing a dagger, it's because that's what they feel inside. Yeah. And so to sit in bodhicitta is to sit in the presence of someone's chaos, anger, pain, and suffering, and turn it into a flower. Not take it personally, which most of us do. Not get up and try to defend it, which most of us do. Not throw a dagger back, which most of us do. Not let it get us off our center, so get triggered by it. So that the rest of it, that's pretty much most of us are having some response that I have to take it personally, or that it belongs to me, or I have to fix it. Yeah. And the Buddha knows that this is not my creation. My creation is a field of flowers. So even if someone is angry or in pain or blaming me for something I didn't create, or angry or out of balance or emotionally upset, that's where they are, and they have the right to be that. And let me send back a flower in its place. And the arrow or the dagger that they send my way, it's not mine. I'm going to turn it into a flower because this is my creation. This is my world. And I choose peace. And that kind of like the Christ consciousness metaphor has been a really beautiful tool that says, wow, how can I be that in the presence of someone's rage right in my face, like being a tiger right in my face, wanting to voraciously throw their daggers at me as if they're mine. how can I stay in a bodhicitta presence of mind and send back a flower and not get triggered, not fix it, not defend, not throw a dagger back, which I'm still working on that.
Well, that's true mastery.
mastery.
Yeah, that's true mastery. And it also doesn't mean that if you're with some cantankerous, arrow slinging, dagger throwing, that you can't just say, thanks, I appreciate that, but I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna deal with that all the time.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, that's interesting. I've always said that you really the only accurate response, even if someone breaks, like let's say someone broke into my house with murderous intent, I would, if I had to, take the gun and I would shoot him, but I wouldn't shoot him out of anger. Hopefully, like I would shoot him just out of pity. Like that's the only proper response. Like, I'm sorry that whatever in your life drove you to this, created this situation. I know that your higher consciousness is weeping for this action that you take. Doesn't mean I'm not going to defend myself. Doesn't mean I'm going to sacrifice my sovereignty, to allow you to play this karma out. I will stop you, but the response shouldn't be anger. It should only be, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for you deeply. But I can't allow you to.
This is why we have laws.
Right.
This is that says you don't get to take another's life. That's not okay. This is why we have, prisons saying if that's going to be your choice, we're going to move you over here because that's not a safe choice for the rest of the for the rest of us.
Except the prison system, it's all about revenge. Right. It's all about retribution. You did this, so this is your punishment. It's not coming from this. Wow, you're really. You must be really suffering.
It's a system that we are working on the tools then to say how can there be rehabilitation for people that have gone to that extreme. But it starts here now with us individually to let go of those densities that would get so reinforced that would lead to that.
Lead to these mass delusions.
Yeah. And so all of us are capable of that when out of balance, insecure, enough pain, enough oppression, not unlike a rattlesnake is going to defend itself, but otherwise it's quite a peaceful creature. Backed into a corner, a scorpion will sting, and we're all capable of that. It's our instinct for survival.
Sure.
And so that just shows us that the prison system is an indication of a much, much deeper symptomatic issue, that when we start doing this kind of healing one-on-one, then that ripples out and it starts to mitigate those things from happening in the first place.
Preventative medicine is the best medicine.
Exactly. And so that takes some time. Those models have been reinforced, and people that have been hurt are hurting other people, and that cycle is happening. And now, with what we're doing and with what many, many people are doing out there that are part of this conscious wave of saying, let's put down the weapons, let's put down the armor, and enough already. Let's open up the hearts. Let's allow each other the space to heal. And it's a real exciting wave to be a part of and contributing to, and I absolutely love what I do. And the masses are awakening. I mean, truck drivers from Alabama, the Bible Belt, we've got, people in their 80s, people in their teens are asking deep, soulful questions. And that just gets me all jazzed, because if we have the masses waking up, then the potential for healing big issues like those social issues that you're talking about are possible. I agree. Quick. It can happen very quickly when someone's motivated to change and they're ready. It can't really happen with force, but when someone's ready and they're fertile, change can happen quickly and effortlessly and beautifully. And there's a lot more tools now than ever before. And I really celebrate that.
I agree. And speaking of one of those tools, before we wrap up here, I want to touch on another one of your mastery tools, which is guided meditation.
Oh, yeah.
So in your process, your meditations they don't have a lot of the mechanics of a traditional meditation. It's very much visualization based, but nonetheless, it gets to an incredibly deep level, even when in person obviously is incredible as well. But I've also, talked about your animal wisdom meditation from an old CD that you have. And so just talk to us a little bit about, that process, how you kind of developed it, and,
okay, cool.
and how you bring it about.
I just a little history. I run a shamanic healing center in Sedona, and it's because it's my passion. Shamanic healing, using tools to kind of clear out the density and bring in more light. And the medicine bag, the tool bag of all of these different approaches and practices has just been getting bigger and bigger over the years. And the more I clear and awaken, the more intuitive guidance comes in. More things that are things that I have never learned, but are in the collective for me to access, or for me to just channel directly when I get out of the way. When those pineal and pituitary gland is open, then when I'm working with a one-on-one client and I'm reading intuitively and with spirit guidance what's really going on with them. And when we go into the healing room one-on-one, then the perfect guided visualization, sound, touch, scent, whatever is needed, just kind of happens. And I get out of the way. And it's delicious because these are not anything that it was taught to me. And it's just so fun to be in that journey with someone. And if someone is really needing to calm and center, maybe it'll be that we go to this meadow and they're a deer. And they're at peace. They're just eating the sweetest grass by their favorite river, and they're free and able to move if they need to, but they're not in a state of agitation. Their ears are flickering because they are constantly listening if they need to move. But until they get that signal, they're completely at peace. And they can just enjoy, and they're aware of the flowers, they're aware of the butterflies, they're aware of the sun. And maybe that is a visualization that somebody may be calling forth because they're in a stress mode or they don't trust their instincts. Maybe it is a tree that we go and be with, about being rooted and grounded and offering your fruits and your service to the community. And how do we use tree medicine to get grounded and solid and connected to the heavens for everything you need, so that then your fruits, as a soul, what you came here to offer to the collective, to the community, gets birthed. Maybe that's going into the womb. And for a lot of my clients that say, oh, well, I was adopted, or my parents didn't want me, or some disconnect about their birth process, then I'll take them back into the womb and connect with that primal life force that says, well, I don't care if my mom is on crack, and if my dad, we don't know who my dad is, I know who my dad is. Or if they don't want me, or if they wanted a boy, or they didn't plan me, I do. I want me, and my life force is stronger, and it trumped everybody else, or else they wouldn't be here. And so the visualizations tend to come in based on intuitively reading what's unique in what they're going through, and what energetic, visual, visceral experience will help to shift that density and change their perspective. So the one-on-one journeys are just super yummy because it so much can shift in a short period of time. I had so many clients asking to have meditations recorded that years ago I decided, okay, I'll just get into a studio and record some, and I recorded one. The CD's called Coming Home. And one of them is a guided visualization through the chakras, that just kind of says, okay, here's the colors and the issues, and it's just kind of walks you through breathing, color, and energy into each of the chakras. And it's a little light body clearing and activation, and it takes 15 minutes or something, and it can be done in the morning or done at night. It's very passive, and you get to experience that. The animal journey that you love is kind of like a shamanic animal journey that takes you to a place in nature and allows an animal to present itself to you. And when I was learning this technique, actually from Michael Harner, author of The Way of a Shaman, and I was all ready to go and journey with a wild Mustang, with black hair, mane, like running across a wild field. And, we were about to do this journey. And he says, and how many of you have picked your animal already? I'm like, oh, me, I have. And he's like, don't. I'm like, oh, bugger. He's like, your animal is here to pick you. And the guy next to me, he had picked his too, I want to be this bear or something like that. And that's what I thought I needed. Medicine leaves you more whole. It's not always the medicine you want. It's not always tastes great. It's not always what you think you need. But a medicine is what will help bring you back into balance, and it will leave you more whole. So that day, I needed an elk that wasn't running at all, but it was just still.
I had the same experience. I thought I was about to do your animal wisdom. I was like, animal wisdom, awesome.
Yeah.
I'm totally talking to a dragon. Definitely dragon.
Yes, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then I got to this, you go through and you go to this serene place in nature, and I have a special place that I go to usually anyways, and I go there and I'm looking in the sky, waiting for a roar or something.
Yeah, like where's the pterodactyl?
Massive beast to come out, and there's just this bunny in the grass there. There's a little bunny in the grass, and I'm like, yeah, got that bunny, but I'm just waiting for my animal.
Where's my real? Where's the animal?
And nothing would come, and I'd even try and force it, and anything I would imagine would just splash as like a cartoon with like big weird eyes, like, like come on. I was like, finally,
Barney the dragon.
Yeah, Barney the dragon. And it's just full flat 2D, Mm-hmm. And eventually I just was like, all right, bunny, it's bunny, surrendered to bunny medicine. And it's still one of the most profound teachings I've ever gotten, about, rabbit medicine.
Right.
And so really, really cool. I write that up in my blog. So if anybody's curious, they can go to aubreymarcus.com, read it. Yeah,
I teach a whole course on shamanic wisdom teachings, and we talk about using animals as medicine teachers, because each animal has its primal instincts, it has its natural wisdom coded into it. Whether it's an earthworm, a bunny rabbit, an alligator, a mosquito, I've had pterodactyl before, dolphin, spider. They all have different wisdom, and for where you are in your life, there might just be some little piece, some little pearl that animal can bring to you. And bunny rabbit's got 2 big ears. It's like, hey, listen. Mm-hmm. Listen before leaping, You can move quick, but if you don't listen, you'll jump right into the coyote den, And so other teachings are really valuable. And one of the guided meditations is about roots, that there's a tree meditation on there, and utilizing animal or nature wisdom teachers, whether that's river or mountain or tree, to kind of be with the personality and the ancient wisdom of those nature teachers, because they have profound insight and wisdom can be extracted just by sitting quietly with the medicine, the wisdom of that being.
Yeah.
And the natives knew that. Most of the tribal cultures know that. And we've kind of separated from that as we've gone into high rises and cars and shoes that keep us disconnected, and we're no longer listening to the moon, or watching the moon move across the sky and being with the stars and connecting with fresh air. So the shamanic wisdom teachings, a couple days, is really fun because we get to reconnect and reestablish that wisdom.
Yeah. So let people know, as we wrap this up here, let people know where they can find you, all the social, the website, the different courses in person that you got coming on.
First of all, if you found this podcast and you have gone all the way to the end, that's no coincidence. You're here, we're here, I'm looking at you, Aubrey's looking at you, because there's something powerful about this connection that you already know. And so know that I'm here, Aubrey's here to help you awaken, to help you learn and grow and heal in whatever way is in the highest alignment, because that's my dharma, and dharma means that is my sole purpose and passion. I run a Shamanic healing center in Sedona, Arizona. It's profound, and and the energy there is just incredible. So come visit me there. ShamanicheHealing.com is where you can find me. There's retreats, there's courses, there's private journeys, whether it's one-on-one or with a partner, a friend, or family. So that can be really tailored to whatever deep soul healing and awakening you need. I'm absolutely devoted to that. And there's also online courses, because a lot of people say, hey, I can't get to Sedona right now. I'm busy with work and so on and so forth. There's a few online courses. And I also do phone counseling. All of that's on ShamanicheHealing.com or Shamanic Retreats. And come and do breath work with me, and know that you matter. You matter absolutely to me. And if you found this and you're looking in my eyes,
or listening,
I'm here, and we will connect. We will meet each other, whether that's in online and you read some article, or listening to another recording, or a beautiful video, or in person. This is the beginning of a relationship that will have a deep, profound effect on your life, and that excites me.
Beautiful.
That excites me.
Beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I've talked about a lot of the different flashy, exciting journeys that I've been on, but if you're just going for straight up, let's get well, let's get to be the best person possible, then I highly recommend, the breath work and checking out some of the stuff that Anahata's done. I wouldn't be the same human being that I am if it wasn't for you. So I deeply appreciate that. And we'll try to get some stuff up on aubreymarcus.com. Maybe, since we talked about that, all those meditations that you already have, maybe we'll work something out to get some digital downloads of that CD, and we'll sort it out. So anyways, Anahata, it's been great having you out here in Austin in our home. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
It's a pleasure. Love this guy, right? Keep following. He's doing the right things for the right reasons with the right integrity. He's the man and a dear friend, and I would not be who I am without your influence and your inspiration to keep expanding and keep growing.
Too kind.
So
Too kind.
Keep it up.
Mad love all around.
Blessings.
See ya.